want to lead this video off by saying that if you can admit that you made a mistake, if you can admit that you screwed up and that you won't be making the same mistake again, and I can actually see it in you that you won't make the same mistake again, we can work together to fix the actual problem.
So I just have one question. Chicago had a choice after Lori Lightfoot, who was breaking COVID protocols to go get her hair done and all sorts of things. They didn't have to go farther left with Brandon Johnson. Why did you vote for him?
I voted for Brandon Johnson because I knew him. I voted for Brandon Johnson because I thought that he would be good for Chicago. I voted for Brandon Johnson because, really, I didn't do my homework. Because had I done...
Well, gee, you know, we kind of felt that you were voting primarily off of a certain little, let's just say you were voting off a certain little thing that I can't actually say here on YouTube. But at least it's a good thing that you can come out and admit that you made a mistake and that you're ready to move forward, that you're ready to, I don't know, maybe help fix the problems. But still at the same time, you need to actually make some type of change and some type of progress before we officially start working together. Guys, this past weekend, the city of Chicago had another one of those city council meetings. These city council meetings, what happens is that the mayor, the woke mayor, Brandon Johnson, the one who has panic attacks all the time. By the way, I'm not saying this to make fun of him. I'm just simply saying this because it's further proof that his excessive panic attacks should tell you that he's probably not cut out for any type of job that's high stakes. They held a roundtable meeting in the city of Chicago. Of course, like I said, it was a city council meeting. And of course, at these city council meetings, people have discussions and they air out grievances. I'm going to be showing you guys some of this here in a second, but before I let you guys listen to one in particular that's roughly about 2 minutes long, I'm showing you guys some stuff here in the B-roll footage. All of these individuals that you're seeing, one of course is two of them are men and one of them is a woman, the one in the red hat. They of course, as you guys can obviously see, are black. The conversation that was being held, as you guys will see here in a second, was over the migrant situation. Now, many people believe that the city of Chicago is flipping, or the city of Chicago has people that are going to be voting Republican next cycle, as they keep saying, we want to flip this bad boy red. They think that this is the case, or they think that's going to happen. I personally don't want to hold my breath. I think that this is obviously a process that needs to be much, much more long-term, as I will admit a little bit, as I'll talk about a little bit more later on in the video. Also, a couple of updates, too, so make sure you guys stick around for the full video. I did post a video earlier today for you guys to see, but the updates I had in that video got deleted. I apologize. That was an idiot move on my part, but I'll talk about that later in the video. There needs to be a much more long-term, much more, let's just say much more sustainable future going forward, or else we're going to find ourselves right back in the same situation that we are now. So, as many of you know, we talked about in several videos, the migrant situation, especially the situation in Chicago, is turning a lot of black people away from the Democratic Party. This is, by the way, their most loyal base of support. Joe Biden has been that god-awful. He's been that horrible, or you could say it's Obama, whoever the hell you want to say that it is. But like I said, we'll talk more about that towards the end of the video. The thing is this right here. This right here is making people reconsidering voting for the Democrats going forward. However, I believe it's another issue. And when I mean it's another issue, it's basically the first issue that made people look in the mirror and say, maybe we screwed up. But we'll get to that here soon. Let's listen to what this lady had to say, who, by the way, has been in other videos, of course, on Fox in Chicago. But let's listen to this.
3,000 U.S. boats were headed for Cuba. It soon became evident that Castro was forcing the boat owners to carry back with them not only their relatives, but the dregs of his jails. Of that 125,000 refugees that landed in Florida, an estimated 25,000 had criminal records. That's what's up. That's what has happened in the United States right now. All this asylum-seeking lie, all this about refugees, no. What's happening is they're emptying out the dregs of their jails into the United States, into our communities. They're junking up our country. And yeah, we feel some kind of way about it because it's our country. It's our country. People like Vasquez and them, look how disrespectful they are. Now, you just gave that man a resolution for his father's restaurant. And every time we get up and talk, he's working this room. Look at him. Look at him. but he wants his resolution for his father to be respected. Vasquez, Lopez, all them want their people to be respected, but they can't even give us the dignity. No question about it. Yeah, Black History Month, the American descendants of slavery. And I want you to know, Brandon Johnson, I understand what Breakmore's saying about we still on the plantation, but what you're looking at right now, this is what a free Negro look like. And I'm telling you, we're going to get our city back. We're going to stand for our people. We're going to get them out of our communities because they don't deserve to be there. Anytime they can't give us 3 lousy minutes of their attention while we sit here and watch y'all get them all kind of money, you watch us. We black out here, and we're going to handle our business. You watch that. I'm a free black woman. This is how we get down.
Now, here's something that needs to be said, and we'll be touching on it here soon. Chicago's overall budget. Of course, the city of Chicago, they have to make some adjustments, okay? Like, for example, Mayor Brandon Johnson is shutting down some migrant shelters.
4 temporary migrant shelters, saying the individuals have been moved to other shelters. The sites were in North Park, Lakeview, North Lawndale, and downtown. City officials say the closings will equal to about $19 million in savings over the course of a year. That includes the cost of the leases, staffing, food, and laundry services. At this time, there are no plans to reopen the sites as the population being housed in city migrant shelters have been continuously decreasing since the start of this year.
He's shutting down 4 migrant shelters and putting them back in hotels, and then from hotels, he's probably going to put them back inside shelters, and then from shelters, he's probably going to want to put them in suburban areas. The suburban areas in Chicago, they already had a vote on this. I think it was the Des Plaines and DePage and some of those areas around there, including Naperville. I think they already decided not to take migrants in, but of course, Brandon Johnson, I talked about this in a previous video, he's going to be sitting there very soon. But let's get back to what that lady said in the previous video. We have already discussed in previous videos, especially when it comes to the topic of New York, and of course now this current situation out of Georgia where a young girl was killed by a migrant who, quite frankly, was locked up and detained in New York City, but also let go by woke District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who also now is claiming, or they're saying that he was let go because of there was no room in the jail, when obviously New York has got a lot of jails, and of course you could probably send them to another facility, but obviously they didn't want to do that. Obviously, other district attorneys that are all across the country are starting to see this and are starting to notice this pattern. People are leaving New York after they've been released out of jail, and they're going to other places, and they're causing all kinds of crimes. The same thing is probably going to happen in the city of Chicago because they have a district attorney that is just as woke as Mayor Brandon Johnson, or just as woke as Alvin Bragg. They're all a bunch of wokesters, are all financed by that guy we have to call Poros. The thing is this right here. We have recently found out that a lot of these people are in fact connected to other gangs or connected to other illegal activities from other countries. And now these people are in our nation. So maybe that right there is what it is. But then again, at the same time, there is a fix. I mean, there is a fix for this problem. It's a big time fix. It's a fix that, quite frankly, would keep the cops from having to answer all the calls. And like I said, don't worry, we'll get back on point about what's going to happen when it comes to black vote and black voters in the city of Chicago soon. But I want you to pay very close attention to this. I want you to pay attention to the disaster that this right here could have been, but I want you guys to especially pay attention to the very end of the video and the lady speaking at the very end. Roughly about 2 minutes.
A jewelry store is shot by an employee inside. It was all captured on surveillance cameras inside and outside of that store. CBS 2's Asal Razai reports from Jewelers Row in the Loop.
Chicago police covering 2 crime scenes in this area. It started at this jewelry store behind me. The suspect running out after being shot and then making his way up to those stairs up to the CTA platform. A usually busy Saturday morning in the Loop turns chaotic at 1 North Wabash Avenue just before 11 o'clock. Police lights quickly taking over the scene, crime tape also blocking off parts of the CTA platform just steps away. Surveillance video from inside the store shows the suspect wearing a red sweatshirt walking around for about a minute before he takes off running towards the entrance. In this closer angle, you can see him begin to bash in a glass case. That's when the employee at the far left reaches behind the counter, begins shooting at the suspect before he tries to get away. Footage from outside the store shows him stumbling out, then running back in to grab what appears to be a small bag before he takes off up the CTA stairs. Police say shortly after, he was placed into custody and taken to the hospital for a gunshot wound. They say he is in stable condition. We're told the employee is a FOID card holder.
But I think to just throw it all on the responsibility of the business owners or the residences is really not the right way to go.
Christine has lived in a neighboring building for about 14 years. She says she wants to see more police in the area as she's concerned with the recent spike in crime she's seen.
But the crime is just escalating and it's getting worse and worse. We had kids killed a few weeks ago. Now this armed robbery, or at least a gun was involved at some point. But it's a shame. It's a shame.
I'm told by security inside the employee that opened fire is currently in custody as Chicago police continue their investigation. At this time, charges against the robbery suspect are
Obviously,
pending.
a good guy with a gun was able to save his own store. This happened in Chicago. Chicago, by the way, has some of the absolute worst gun control laws in the country. And of course, the guy who defended his store, he's obviously been detained. Don't think I wasn't going to mention that, but still at the same time, though, he'll probably be let out. But the thing is this right here, you see that old white lady talking about what the city used to be. She basically was lamenting on what it was and how it is that it's really a bad look. As I've said about New York before, it's a really bad look. And of course, people do in fact care about the city, or they claim that they do. But when the situation gets to the point where it's so absolutely unavoidable, it makes you think if maybe, just maybe, these people probably want to, I don't know, maybe change their vote, change their opinions on things. And of course, given the budget shortfall that we're about to talk about here in a second, the fact that police is about to get cut even further in that city, as well as sanitation, you got to ask yourself a question. Are people, especially people who live in these very, very poor neighborhoods, are they starting to see that they really and truly screwed up? Before we get to said budget shortfall, and we get to the politics, and we get to the whole notion that Texas is at fault for everything going on in the state of Illinois, everything going on in Chicago, I need to go ahead and say this right before we go any further. You guys remember back in 2020, there was the whole defund the police thing? Well, defund the police in reality actually started during Obama's second term. I want to say it was the whole Eric Gardner situation. It was Trayvon Martin. The BLM popped up. Don't worry, Trayvon Martin will probably be a discussion on this channel as well, especially when we start going back in time and looking at how it was that our media got it wrong and how it was they manipulated our society. But of course, you had several of the incidents. Freddie Gray, Michael Brown, you had several incidents where anti-police activity or anti-police protests were popping up. 2020 was obviously the year that it all set off. I mean, you had George Floyd, then you had the situation in Atlanta, and of course, you also had the situation in Wisconsin, the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. It was already popping off, okay? It was already going crazy. It was already absolutely lit. Well, the same people who were complaining in the city of Chicago about crime, the same people were complaining about the migrants, they also took part in this defund the police thing. Well, crime has been absolutely insane. It's been ridiculous in the city of Chicago. As a matter of fact, as you're going to see, some of the stuff that, quite frankly, I obviously threw in the B-roll footage is going to pop back up in the sound bites when I show you this, which I'm going to go ahead and show you now.
Residents tore into city leaders over the 35,000 illegal immigrants who have poured into Chicago. And the city is on a spending spree for those people who broke our laws to get here. Critics are accusing the city of prioritizing border crossers over minority communities in particular.
Get them out of our communities because they don't deserve to be there.
Downtown has 3 to 4 illegal families on every block begging for work and selling Kit Kat bars after $1 billion was spent on them. Where is that money? Where is the money for the South Side and the West Side communities? Not another dollar for the illegals. If the crisis is so bad, the city council members who are so concerned should donate their salaries to the cause like a real public servant should.
That's from a recent, yesterday it was breaking live during this hour. That's from that city council meeting. And we couldn't see everybody, but we played it for you anyway. Now we have so much more of it to play. Illinois has spent more than $1 billion of Chicago tax money already on the people who are there. So the Illinois governor thinks he has the answer to it all. He's blaming Texas.
Abbott willfully planned the arrival of these individuals in locations and at times that would engender the maximum chaos for the city of Chicago. Think about that the next time a politician from Texas wants to lecture you about being a good Christian. They shouldn't leave it to the governor of Texas, who has no goal but to sow chaos and destruction.
I apologize. The sound bites still come up next. But I want to talk about this really quick because this right here is the gaslighting, okay? The gaslighting that the left loves to do. It's called projection. They always love to accuse you or blame you for what it is that they are doing. This is who these people really and truly are. The thing is this right here, though, I don't think the politicians that operate in the state of Illinois or the politicians that are in charge of the city of Chicago, I don't think that their message is resonating anymore. I think it's starting to fall on deaf ears. Now, would this right flip something like Chicago? I'm not going to say what it would do or would not do toward the end of the video. Don't worry, I'll give you guys my analysis soon. But the fact of the matter is that's not just the migrant crisis, it's also the crime too. The migrant crisis just happened to be the final straw. And you're wondering why it is that people in Chicago are starting to talk like we're about to say
stronghold for most of its eternity. This year, we're working to turn Chicago red. We are so angry with Pritzker and with President Biden and with our mayor that we have decided that we're going to vote Republican this time around. Wow. That's just how angry we are. We are so angry that we are willing and going to turn our backs on the Democratic Party. I sat in some of those city council meetings and I looked at and I watched the aldermen totally disregard the voices of the people. And when I was going down there, we were coming down every week in the hundreds. And what we said did not matter. And when we were talking about changing Chicago's status as a sanctuary city, and keep in mind, we still have a right to do that. Just like Biden has the right.
People who live in these areas, they know what the hell is up. They know exactly how bad it is. They know that the people who are being brought in, they know that these people are criminals. They know that not only do they break the law by crossing over the United States, but they also know that these people are criminals too. Then you get the case of the actual person that someone like, say, Fox News actually interviews. You get to the case of somebody who actually knew Brandon Johnson, somebody who claims to actually know them personally, but yet then at the same time, though, never even bothered to ask this guy what their actual policies were. Now, remember what I said earlier in the video. The city of Chicago voted for Mayor Brandon Johnson. He only won by 3%. Paul Vallius was also a Democrat as well. He lost by 3%. This city is so blue that you don't have an adequate Republican nominee. You don't even have an adequate independent nominee. Same thing when it comes to the city of New York. Same thing with LA. Same thing with San Francisco. Same thing with most big cities in the United States. It's also another reason why it is that these people wanted to have a CW with a bunch of conservatives. They would lose very quickly because the vast majority of Democrat voters exist in these areas inside these cities. I would say it's probably right around 2/3 of their overall voter block. These people don't exactly do anything. They don't exactly inform themselves. They don't exactly look at the news. They don't actually get up to date on things. And that's kind of why they're in this situation. They don't actually look into things. They don't do any research. And now, of course, they're paying as a result of this. I mean, think about this really quick. Defund the police. As I've said before in previous videos, the reason why you don't want to defund your police departments is because they have to secure the scenes when it comes to fire and EMS. Grandma has a heart attack. Granddaddy has a stroke. He's in a very, very bad neighborhood. The first person who's going to get the call is obviously going to be EMS. They're going to ask if the scene is secure. Police is going to show up there. They're going to make sure the area is secure so that way EMS can go in there and do their job and save grandma or granddaddy. As I said before, it's probably the dumbest reason in the world to defund your police departments, especially in these very, very large cities. But let's listen to this person.
In order to change the crisis at the border, Chicago's mayor has the right to put forth an executive order to change Chicago's sanctuary city.
Will he do it?
Of course he will not do it. If he was going to do it, it would have been done. And remember, there was a vote within City Council where the ordinance to change it was strucken down. And the mayor was the deciding vote.
Okay, so I want to play just a little bit. It's actually a clip from your Democratic mayor, Brandon Johnson, just after that city council meeting yesterday that got pretty chippy. And at the end of the day, he is the one you are counting on in all of this, as you just said. It's his vote. It's his, in those meetings, it's his voice. It's his leadership that matters. Let's watch.
We're grateful that the state and the county is working towards providing more investments, even though we have to have a more substantive conversation about where those dollars will actually go.
Very, very simply, the propaganda and the gaslighting is not working anymore. The people who are actually living in this area, they can see how bad things are. So they automatically know that Governor J.B. Pritzker is lying to them. And to go on top of this, they're already starting to see exactly how weak Brandon Johnson is. Let me say this really quick. Lori Lightfoot, and I have to say this all the time, Lori Lightfoot was never really and truly woke. She acted woke. She pretended to be woke. She did that for votes. The person's significant other, which was just a guy who was pretending to be a woman, that person there, it was all fake. Whereas Mayor Brandon Johnson is a result of people like Lori Lightfoot, who constantly gaslit people and constantly lied to people all the time. Brandon Johnsons are created as a result of idiots like, say, Lori Lightfoot, or I would say just good old-fashioned dishonest people. But let's watch a little more.
So I just have one question. Chicago had a choice after Lori Lightfoot, who was breaking COVID protocols to go get her hair done and all sorts of things. They didn't have to go farther left with Brandon Johnson. Why did you vote for him?
I voted for Brandon Johnson because I knew him. I voted for Brandon Johnson because I thought that he would be good for Chicago. I voted for Brandon Johnson because really I didn't do my homework. Because had I done my homework and paid attention to the alliances and who he was with and who groomed him, I would have known better and I would have voted differently. And that brings me to the challenge of really standing up and not just saying to Chicagoans or Illinoisans, but to all voters in this country, it is time for us to stand up and to vote ourselves in.
That right there is because the aldermen and, of course, the people who are the politicians, the people who actually run Chicago, Illinois, they don't believe you. They don't believe you because you talk this way. You say things, but then you turn right back around and you don't actually do it. That right there is the reason why it is. These people are very, very smug. They also live in a false sense of reality. If every black person in Chicago got up, or it doesn't have to be every person in Chicago. I mean, all you have to do is just get maybe like 10 to 15%. Next thing you know, I would say that a good portion of the aldermen who are in South Chicago are probably gone. Next thing you know, the city council meetings are probably going to be a little bit more, how do I say, a little bit more towards the center. Right now, you have way too many daggone leftists that are in the city council. Of course, you've got a leftist mayor, and of course, you've got leftist aldermen. Aldermen, by the way, are for the most part neighborhood politicians in the city of Chicago. Go ask somebody who's actually from Chicago who would know a little bit better, but that's kind of how I got educated, was actually going to Chicago channels and finding out, talking about exactly what happens in those areas. But still, though, at the same time, you're going to have to actually physically go out there and do it. Let me say this, okay? This is going to be the last part of the video. This lady right here sounds to me like she's interested in actually changing her opinion. She's actually interested in changing the way things are. But when they say self-interest, that always bothers me too, okay? Now, let me explain what I mean when I said that she sounds sincere. She sounds sincere in what she said about changing or voting self-interest. Let's talk about self-interest for a very quick second. Most underrated channel on this platform, I would say the most underrated commentator, especially conservative commentator. And there are a lot of very good commentators. Not all of them are conservative, but a lot of very good commentators. Sean Fitzgerald, actual justice warrior, he talks a lot about the bigger cities of the U.S., especially New York. Nate the lawyer is pretty good. You've got the hood conservative is somebody that, quite frankly, people don't speak about. People don't speak about. Kevin's Corner. Jericho Green is one of my favorite commentators. The guy is absolutely hilarious, but he's always right. The Office of Brandon Tatum has worked a lot, especially when it comes to dealing with the black community or trying to get black people to start voting Republican. Candace Owens tries too. And of course, I've talked about Pastor Darrell Scott, who, quite frankly, I'm kind of sour on right now because, of course, he keeps on going at with Charlie Kirk. And the reason why I'm going at with him is because it seems to me that someone like Pastor Darrell Scott is trying to get black people to vote Republican based upon their current feelings and not using actual logic. Let me break this down for you a little bit further by what I mean. I said self-interest a while ago. Okay, so what is self-interest? It's what's better off for your community, correct? Okay, so what's the best thing you can have? Jobs, some area that's secure, take care of the crime, which, by the way, if Republicans ran on crime, then they would probably get a lot more votes in the city. The thing is this right here. You got high crime. You've got a budget that's out of control right now. Can't pay for anything. You got a migrant crisis, and, of course, you've got an extremely bad economy. Now, somebody's going to probably say, well, these people are on handouts. There's a lot of jealousy. And I've talked about that before, but a lot of these people are on handouts. A lot of them are on hand-ups, meaning that they're working 20 or 30 hours between two jobs, and they got to get that little bit of extra cash that comes down that, by the way, the government is giving to a bunch of illegals who, quite frankly, aren't even working a job right now or waiting for permits to go work at a job that, a good old-fashioned American could probably take. White or black, it doesn't matter. Or Hispanic, that, quite frankly, is already legal or already here, or is possibly in the process of getting their visa or getting their green card. Somebody who actually went through the process, actually filled it out, all that type of good stuff there too, and they're getting robbed too. Even illegals do not like illegal immigration. Just saying that right now. The thing is this right here. When you talk about self-interest, it needs to be actually sustaining and it needs to be for the betterment. You see, one of the problems that we have, and see, when I talked about content creators earlier, Greg Foreman has probably been the most underrated in my opinion. He has shared several videos about people like Sexy Red, influencers, rappers going on TikTok, talking about how it was when Trump was in office. He was handing out them checks. Oh, he was throwing them checks out there during the pandemic. We was getting paid. We was eating when he was in office. That can't be the only reason why you vote Republican. Okay? Can't be. You got to vote a certain way because of what's happening in your community. It's got to be sustainable. You got to actually mean it. That right there is the fear that I have with someone like Darrell Scott constantly telling these people, you need to vote Trump this cycle, you need to vote. Okay, why are you voting for him? And I'm a Trump voter, by the way. Why, are you just voting for him, or do you plan on becoming an actual conservative going forward? Do you plan on actually supporting us long term? Do you plan on going back to the Democrat plantation? That's what I'm trying to say. It needs to be long term. It needs to be self-sustainable, or else it's just going to be a Band-Aid. But I do think the situation in Chicago, especially with people waking up, is a bit of a start. So I'm glad to see that people in Chicago are, in fact, starting to wake up. Just figured I'd go ahead and throw that out there. Let me tell you guys what's going on before I end this video. I think you guys need to know exactly what's going on back here because I mentioned this at the very, very end of the previous video, but I don't think I clamped down on it the way I should have, but I want to explain it now so that way you guys are not completely caught off guard when things begin to actually happen. So let's go ahead and explain that, and then we'll go ahead and close the video down. I brought this up in the previous video, and I want to go ahead and bring it up now. Yes, I took off my hat, and I also at the same time shaved earlier. This is back when I had a beard about 3 hours ago in the previous video. But first of all, back here, I'm going to be doing some work over here, so it's going to look a little bit different. Probably going to change the setup. It's just recording the corner, for better overall acoustics, of course. But something that I've been wanting to do is a lot less videos like this one where it's actually current events. I've been trying to do a lot more video essays, of course, on how the media manipulates. For example, 2 videos that are coming out on Tuesday are going to tackle the whole case of why it is that we do interviews, because I saw some things the other day that, quite frankly, just, let's just say they're phony faux call-outs of certain influencers who don't question other people who are influencers about something in their past or whatever. I'm just going to be doing something on that. And, of course, I'm also going to be talking a little bit in this second video about the He Gets Us campaign, and just basically a follow-up to my previous video on that. You're going to start seeing a lot more videos like that, including those essays that I want to do. But there's something else, too, that I also wanted to do. I talked a long time ago about doing social commentary through film with certain movies, certain stories. Like, for example, take the Metal Gear Solid series, While It Was Prophetic, video games, Silent Hill, Metal Gear, the social commentary. Stuff that's a little bit more cerebral, a little bit more psychological. That stuff right here is going to be coming out on a separate channel. I thought about doing it here on this channel, but I'm just going to be creating another channel. I'll be linking it in the description box. It's going to say Disassociative Indifference, but I think I'm going to change it back to the working title, which was Visions from Solidus, or Solidus's Dreams. Solidus, of course, was a character in the Metal Gear Solid series, Metal Gear Solid 2. Let's just say that if you played the game, then you know that he's actually the true antagonist. It's just the way that it ends that makes him look bad. But the thing is this right here. There's going to be some changes, and you guys are going to notice over the next couple of weeks. Also, something else, too. I want to give you guys a bit of an update that I did not give you in the previous video on my current health situation. My health is fine. I've got something that, quite frankly, I've just got to deal with and got to fix. So you're probably going to notice substantial, or well, not substantial, but a gradual weight loss over the next few months. If you guys want to make fun of me or whatever in the comment section, that's fine with me. I'm a big boy, I can take it. But that's part of the reason why there's also going to be a lot more video essay type content where my face is not going to be on camera. Also, other things that need to be said, and I want to go ahead and close on this right here. Videos that come out on Monday, I normally have made those videos on Sunday. Like this video, of course, is being made on Sunday. And, of course, it covers things that happen over the weekend that may carry over into the following week. The reason why is because, obviously, we're going into spring and summer, and it even lasts through fall. The landscaping issue in my apartment complex is, let's just say that a lot of things happen. There's a lot of noise going on between the 8 o'clock hour and between sometimes even the 6 o'clock hour. Monday's going to be my writing research day, or my writing get additional research day, because I'm about the computer for the most part. It's also going to require me to do a lot of physical getting up, walking around due to the health situation. It's a circulation issue. It's cardiovascular, basically, is what it is. Something that's hereditary. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be here for a very long time. So don't be thinking any negativity or anything like that in the comment section. But I also, at the same time, am going to be doing a lot more, let's just say a lot additional days where content's going to be kind of spread out. So you're probably going to be noticing some changes here over the next few weeks. I originally wanted to implement this stuff back at the start of the month, but of course things happen, and of course it causes a bit of a delay. Health comes first. With that rather being said, guys, please tell me what you think of the content in the comment section. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please share the video. And once again, guys, thank you for sticking around me as long as you have. We're not going anywhere. We're going to make this channel. We're going to make this entire platform, this entire Claymore network much, much larger. And I'll see you guys later.